Right, so today is all about getting a foot in the door. The whole of soul sound, the whole point of soul sound's it's become a bit elaborate now. Soul Sound, until recently, was just an agency where I looked after people's careers in the live sound industry. And now I've added this, we've just launching the Soul Sound Online Resource Centre, which is hopefully going to spread that kind of idea much wider so that you guys can find opportunities to improve yourselves and improve your talents. So I've got a bit of experience about getting people into work. As an educator with Alchemia, I used to make sure that all my students used to get a lot of work experience, and that led to people getting a lot of work. So I do know what I'm talking about on this subject. Also, I get sent a lot of CVs by people running an agency, and I also know what works and what doesn't work with getting me to respond. So I'm going to let you into all those secrets very soon. First of all, this idea of a career. It's only now that I'm in my 40s that I'm actually really starting to understand what a career really is, right? Because everything I've found that I've done in my life ever, from my really first jobs, I've been a secretary in my life, I've been an art model in my life, I've been all kinds of stuff in my life. I've run nightclubs, I've worked in bars, restaurants, all kinds of stuff before I got into sound, and now I realise that everything I learned on all of those jobs has brought me to where I am today. So even if while you're starting out, even if you've got to have a little bar job on the side just to get the rent paid, that's fine, don't worry, you're learning something on every job, just don't get stuck in it, that's all. The word career, I looked up quite a few definitions of the word career, and this was my favourite one. It's an occupational profession, especially one requiring training, special training, right? And are most of you students in here? Right, you're getting your special training that you need, right? But it's something that is followed as one's life's work. Now, it's difficult to know when you're 18, 19, what your life's work's going to be, unless you are lucky enough to have made that decision already. But I think that's a beautiful way of describing a career. It's something that you will, that consumes you, that consumes your life. And that's what audio does. People who get into audio professionally are consumed by it. They live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it. It's the only thing that really matters. They don't care about lights, they don't care about videos. You care about sound. And it's really important if you want to follow a career in something like audio that you have that absolute passion and it is your life's work, because that's the way to succeed. If you do it half-heartedly, it's never going to be a good career. If you're going to do something half-heartedly, go and work in a bank or somewhere where you get a clock in at 9 and you clock out at 5, and that's it. And one's life's work is what you take home with you. You eat it, you dream it, you sleep it, and you don't miss any opportunity to practice it. So there's 3 steps to building a great career. The first of all, you need to find work, which is the difficult one in the first place. Once you've found the work, you need to keep the work. Right? Keeping work is all, it's finding work and then not doing the job well enough so that your phone doesn't ring the next day. That's no point in doing that at all. You've got to keep the work. And then you've got to improve yourself all the time, become a better engineer every day, make sure that every day you learn something new and you remember that and you put into practice everything that you've learned every day. Right, finding work. The first aspect to finding work is having the correct attitude. All right, and this is not only your attitude to other people, it's also your attitude to yourself. You're living in a very, very competitive environment. In the UK, there's lots and lots of people studying sound engineering. Everybody wants to be an engineer. Everybody wants to be Jose at the back of the room there. But it's your attitude that gets you there. And that's often your attitude towards yourself as well. You've got to care about yourself and you've got to look after yourself inside in order to be successful. The second aspect is how you approach people. Now, this is something that's very close to my heart because I get approached a lot by young people looking for work. And I don't advertise work. I've never once on my website said, please send me CVs. Right? People just send CVs on spec, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to understand, if nobody's even advertising a job and then you're sending them a CV, you've got to approach them in a way that actually makes them respond to you. Right? So that's a very, very, very important thing. And I've found, and I'm going to sound really old when I say this, but I find that schools are not teaching that these days. Nobody teaches you how to write a proper letter, how to approach someone well. And it's one of the most important things is to get people to respond to you. They're under no obligation whatsoever to respond to you. You've sent an email, and it's in someone's inbox. They've never heard of you. You've got to give them a reason to respond. And the last thing is, of course, you absolutely have to pursue and practice your passion. If you're not passionate about this kind of career, there's no point in doing it. If you want to be dispassionate or without passion, then you really are. There's millions of other jobs that are going to have shorter hours and better pay. You have to be passionate about this, otherwise there's absolutely no point in doing it. Right, the attitude of how you feel towards yourself. First of all, you need to have imagination. The one thing that I've learned over the years is that imagination leads to manifestation. If you can't imagine what it is that you want, and you can't see it inside your head, then it will not manifest. A year ago, I saw inside my head, I made a decision that I was going to do an online resource centre. I wanted to do it with certain people. I gathered those people around me. I imagined it very clearly, and I imagined this particular moment very clearly as well. I imagined myself standing on the stage and conducting this seminar and organising a day of seminars at PLASA. And I'm doing it because I imagined it very, very, very clearly. If your imagination is always consumed with, oh, I'm trying to find work, I'm trying to this, I'm trying to do that, you'll only ever try. The word want and try need to come out of your vocabulary. You need to do. There's a vast difference, and it's in your own head. The difference between trying and doing is massive. So use your imagination, but be careful how you imagine things, because your imagination manifests. So if you imagine things in a way that's unsuccessful, oh, I'm never going to do that, I'm not good enough, then that's what's going to happen to you. You must imagine things positively so that you can manifest. The big question is, what can you do? I really, 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 really hate getting CVs where the first line of the covering letter is, hi, I've just got my degree. I don't really care about your degree. I don't care how you learned what you know. I'm only interested in what you can physically do. Okay? Telling me how you learnt it is irrelevant. I want to know what you can do. So always explain very clearly. I can mix monitors. I can do front of house. I have used in-ear monitors before. I can do this. I can do that. I know how to load a truck. List your skills of exactly what you can and can't do. Nobody's interested in how you learned it. They just want to know what you know. Confidence, and I know this is a very, very tricky one and a very, very difficult one. Confidence is something that's inside yourself. But confidence is something that you can fake. All right? I was standing backstage absolutely bricking it before I got on the stage. But I'm assuming I'm coming across quite confident because you have to make it up. If you're not feeling confident, fake the fact that you're confident, then other people think that you're confident, and they are attracted to you, and they want to see who you are, and they want to know you more. There's that old saying, fake it till you make it. If you're not feeling confident, just pretend that you are, and everybody will think that you are, and you'll probably be you'll be higher up on the list for getting a job. So yes, try and build the confidence. And one of the ways you can build confidence is to do as much work experience as you possibly can. Now, I know that many learning providers don't necessarily actively pursue work experience for their students. I would say to you that if you are in an institution that doesn't find that work experience for you, number one, ask them to, pressure them to. Work experience is the only way you build confidence. It really is. And secondly, if they're not prepared to do that for you, go and find it yourself. Just because your university is not forcing you to go and get work experience doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. All right? Go out, go to your local venues, beg and beg and beg until they let you go and help them. Walk in there with a case of beer, tell the guy, can you help me? I just want to shadow you. Here's a case of beer. Do whatever it takes. All right? You need to go out there and find work experience, because there's no better. What you learn in a classroom is great. It's fantastic. But it's not doing. All right? Writing about and talking about isn't doing. You need to do things, and you need to build your confidence. You also need to want it really, really, really badly. And this is not just for audio, of course. This is for absolutely anything you choose to do in your life. If you don't want it badly enough, you're never going to get it. So you've got to want it. You've got to passionately desire it. showing respect to the people who may at some point be able to give you work is really, really important. Most of the people who are the job providers at the moment, they didn't have university degrees in audio at that point in history. It's a fairly recent thing. So everybody who has been doing it for 30 years learnt it on the job. They learnt it by having other people teach them how to do it. They learnt it sweeping floors and picking up tips and all that. You guys are lucky, you've got courses that you can do, all right? But the course, the fact that you've got a degree and the guy who's a bit older than you and knows everything doesn't have a degree, that's not a problem, right? And you're walking in and flashing a degree at someone going, oh, I've got a degree, it makes them hate you immediately because you've got to get these people on your side. And if you think you're better than them because you've got a piece of paper that they don't have, you're in trouble and nobody's going to help you. I'm not saying don't get degrees, I'm saying definitely go get degrees. What I'm saying is don't use your degree as your opening card. Use it as the last thing on the list. First of all, you go, this is what I can do, this is what I'm prepared to do to help you, this is what I can do for you, and then, the degree can come later. Don't ever use your degree as your opening gambit, because it doesn't sit well with the older generation of people who didn't have degrees to do. Make friends with everybody. This is the biggest lesson I've learned since I've been involved in the audio industry. Without friends in the industry, you're not going to have a career. You've got to be friends with people. You've got to be liked, and you've got to like people. The most important thing you can do for yourselves is to be liked. So be nice. Turn up with a smile on your face all the time. Make sure that you can make yourself useful to other people, and then you're going to have people like you, and they're going to call you. All right? The most important thing is that people want to be friends. We work together for 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 hours a day. You can't be working for 20 hours a day with someone you don't like. So it's really important to be liked. And say yes to every single opportunity that ever comes your way. Whether it's to go and do something in the local pub, whether it's a nice, fantastic venue, whether it's the local church, it doesn't matter, the local theatre, whatever, it doesn't matter. Say yes to absolutely every opportunity. Not just because you learn something technical on every single gig, but also because you're meeting people. Making friends is a very important thing. How do you make friends with people in the audio industry if you're not actually if you're not actually next to them? So you've got to say yes to every opportunity. I always found the gigs that I really didn't want to do because I couldn't be bothered, or I was tired, or didn't like the genre, or I didn't like something about it, but you get yourself up and you go and do the gig anyway. It's those gigs where you actually learn the most, because there will definitely be someone or something to learn on that gig. So yes, say yes to every opportunity, because that's where you learn your craft, and that's where you learn to meet people. Now, punctuality, which means turning up on time, is absolutely vital. What we do is always, in the live sound industry, always a very, very limited time span. You've got 3 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours, and work does expand to fill the time. So if you are late, and say there's 5 people on a gig. If you are late, there's 4 people doing a 5-person job. That takes up more time, and, to be perfectly frank, it pisses the hell out of them. Right? Nobody wants to be doing other people's work. So turn up on time, do your share. If you want a coffee before work, get it before work, not when you arrive at work. Right? Be prepared. If your call time is 10 o'clock in the morning, turn up at 9:45, faff around, find somewhere to put your jacket, somewhere to put your bag, drink your coffee, and be ready to work at 10. A call time means ready to work at, not ready to drink coffee at. So be on time. Be reliable. It's even more important than even getting something to sound good is that you are there. That if you've said, I will do this gig for you, I will be there, then you have to be there. And you have to be there on time. Being reliable is the most important thing. If you're unreliable, your phone will not ring. A lot of people don't even know the difference between good and bad sound necessarily, unless it's screaming feedback. So people seeing you on time and seeing you there is almost more important than what it sounds like in many situations, because then they've got confidence. They know you're there. They know it's under control. And then they'll leave you alone. If you're late or you're unreliable and you're just not around, people will not trust you, and that's a very important thing. You need to be trusted. So if you want to be trusted, you need to be reliable. And just be nice. Everybody's tired. Everybody's hungover. It's rock and roll, let's face it. Everybody was up until 5 in the morning and they got up at 8 after that. And that's the point. That's why we do it. We love it. We love that kind of life. We want to be hungover every morning. It's part of rock and roll. That's what we do. However, you still need to be nice when you get there in the morning, okay? You know, we're not in rock and roll because it's a clean-cut industry, are we? So everybody's feeling like shit in the morning. So look, you know, be nice. And if you can see that someone is really feeling bad, then go and just get them a cup of coffee. They will love you forever. They will remember you forever because you've gone and fetched one cup of coffee for someone. Do it. People will like you. They will look after you. That person will go, Johnny, who brought me that cup of coffee, he seemed like a nice guy. Why don't we take him on tour next time as the third man, fourth man, whatever. So these little things really count. Personal touches. It's all about human contact. You know, we can now go to Tesco's and do a month's shopping without even looking at a human being. You scan it, and the only thing you do is look at the one human being who's got to come and use the store card and, you know, allow you to buy the booze. But you can do a month's shopping in Tesco's without having to look at another human being in the eye. Human contact is everything in this world. That's why we live. That's why we love. That's why we are. We're human beings. We like human contact. So the fact that we're all hiding behind screens and text messages and all that, don't forget that there's a human being on the other side of that text message. There's a human being receiving that email, right, who's just like you. Always go the extra mile, especially when you're young. You are wanting to impress people, right? And impressing people, as I say, is not flashing your degree. Impressing people is when there's a pile of cables in the corner that needs coiling, that you say, shall I go and do that? And they'll go, yes, and then you go and do it well. They've got a nicely bunch of coiled cables. They will remember you. You need to stand out from the crowd. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are studying sound engineering. When you finished uni, or whatever college you're at, you've pretty much got the same CV. Right? Everybody's learned a certain amount of Pro Tools, everybody's learned a certain amount of cabling and a certain amount of mixing, a certain amount of live, whatever. But everybody's learned kind of similar things. So your CVs, frankly, look exactly the same. So unless you can actually tell me what you can do in the first place, and then when you get an opportunity, go the extra mile. Stand out from the guy next to you who's actually gone and had his third fag break in 15 minutes. Right? Be the one who's better. That's how you get the work. And I've heard this with my own ears. Somebody saying, I'm sorry, I don't load the truck, I have a degree. All right, your degree does not exempt you from physical labor. 90% of the job that we do as sound engineers is physical hard work. It's loading, it's unloading, it's pushing boxes around, it's flying them, it's cabling, it's crawling under things. It's physical work. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's a practical exercise. So yes, don't think for a single second that your degree means that you don't get to push boxes around, because you might as well seriously go and work in a bank. Right, now, how you approach people is very, very important. And the older I get, the more I realize how important this is and how much of this relies on you, yourself. You can change any situation, any relationship with someone. You can change that situation and create that relationship. So always make a good first impression. When you walk in with a smile. Not that hard. Shake people's hands, introduce yourself, and remember their names. Right, there's nothing more impressive to me than somebody who remembers my name. It's great. It just makes you feel good. I'm human. It makes me feel good that you remember my name. So I'm more likely to respond well to you when I next see your name in my inbox, or if I might actually answer my phone to you because you've impressed me the first time. The word remarkable comes from the word remark, which means to say something. So it's really important that people are saying good things about you. Trust me, I know this is a male-dominated industry, but we're all a bunch of old grannies when it comes to gossip. Right? Everybody talks. And if you've on your first gig with someone, let's say somebody's given you an opportunity to go off with a PA company for a day, they've given you an opportunity. They are going to talk about you at the end of the day. Once you have gone home, they're all going to talk about you. What did they think of him? Oh, the tea made was a bit rubbish. But if you made a damn fine cup of tea and got the sugars right, they will remember you. Just be remarkable. Make sure that when people are talking about you, that they say good things about you so that they will call you again. Everything you do is with the intention of being called again. You want your phone ringing. So the only way to do that is to make people like you and want you around. Make it easy. I am a very busy human being, and I get sent lots of CVs. If I have to click 3 or 4 different things in order to read your CV, I'm never going to do it. Don't write to me and say, oh, can I send you my CV? No, send me a CV and covering letter straight away. I'm not going to reply, yes, of course you can. Just send it. Make it easy for me to read it. Send PDFs. Don't send Word files, particularly for CVs, because Word files get opened up on all different kinds of computers, and their formatting often changes. So what was a nicely formatted CV now suddenly looks rubbish. Always send things as PDFs, so you can guarantee that what I'm seeing is what you intended me to see. And just make it easy for me to respond. Put your contact details everywhere. Top of the CV, bottom of the CV, in the covering letter. I don't want to have to look for your contact details. I just want to find them very, very quickly. If I want to contact you and I can't find your contact details quickly, I'm going to go to the next person. So make it easy for the person you're approaching to get hold of you and to just get to the point where they actually read your CV. Employers are people too. We like being flattered. All right? I do not know a single engineer who doesn't like showing off a bit. So if you're someone like Justin, who you're going to see next up, he'll talk to you for hours. Shove a beer in his hand and go, hi, I think you're really cool. He will talk to you for hours. And what you will learn in those hours is extraordinary. So remember that people are, you're sending a CV to a human being. Talk about people's websites and don't say generic things like, oh, you have a lovely website, can I have a job? I know for a fact that you've sent that for 40 to 20,000 people straight off. Actually, go to my website, read it, check that you get people's names right. I often get Darren with an E. My name is spelt with a Y. It's on my website about 20 times. If you've done your research properly, you know how to spell my name. If you've done your research properly, you know I'm a woman, not a man. I get lots of Dear Mr. De La Souls, in which case it goes straight in the bin because you clearly have just grabbed my email address and or my name and not actually looked at my website. So say something nice about the research the people that you're trying to get work from. It flatters them. If the first sentence says, I was at that gig you guys did the other day, it sounded great. Excellent. I might actually read the second sentence then. Lead people in. They're human. Employers are human. We want, we want the same things that you do, which is people being nice to us. So be nice to people. Your CV is clearly an important document. Your covering letter is the seriously important document. Nobody opens the CV unless the covering letter is good. Okay? The covering letter is where you, in a nice, less formal way, can explain who you are, what you can do, and what you are after in life. I've never given anybody work straight off a CV. I give people work off covering letters, way more than I give people work off CVs. The covering letter engages me, it makes me like you, and it makes me want to read your CV. You've got to make people want to read on. You've got to engage them, entrance them, make them like you. It's all about the liking part. And that's way more important than the CV. Now, this is a trick that, and I learned this trick the hard way with emails in particular. I once sent a really badly worded email to someone which caused a lot of trouble for me in my life. And then when I went back and reread the email after it caused a lot of trouble for me, I realized that if I had received that email, I would have been furious and I would have caused the trouble that had been caused. So I learned from that thing to just, before you hit send, always be very cautious before hitting send. I now have learned that I never put the name and the actual email address in until I've reread it a million times in case I hit send before I mean to. So I always leave the address blank until I'm absolutely sure that the email is ready to be sent. And then reread it. Read it to yourself. And would you respond well to that letter? Would you give yourself a job? Is the question you need to ask yourself when you read that letter. And if you find that you would not give yourself a job after reading your letter, rewrite it. And you can cheat. You can Google good covering letter and adapt a template, but make sure it's good, and make sure you would give yourself a job. Your CV itself is a document that says what you can do. Make that stand out as well. Now, I'm going to show you a CV in a minute, which is just one of the best CVs I've ever seen in my life. But, if an A4 page with a lot of words on it is, a lot of effort to read. If I don't have time and energy or inclination, I'm not going to read it. What I do notice immediately, however, is bad formatting, bad copy and pasting, not putting in full stops, not using capital letters. Your CV is a reflection of yourself. And it's the covering letter and CV is the only thing an employer has about you to judge you on until they meet you. So you've got to make sure that your CV makes you look like an industrious, hard-working person. If your CV looks lazy, my immediate assumption is that you're a lazy person and I will not go near you, work-wise. So make sure that your CV looks like you've made an effort. Do not write your CV in an afternoon. Write your CV over the course of a week. Write it, then rewrite it, then rewrite it. Get your mum to read it. Get your grandmother to check the spelling, because nobody else knows to spell anymore. Get a dictionary out and check that the autocorrect is actually what you meant to say as well. Because there is a real big danger with autocorrect, that you say the wrong thing. We've all done it on iPhones. We know perfectly well what autocorrect can do to you. So make sure that your documents you're sending out aren't accusing somebody of things that you shouldn't be accusing them of. Right, I've just blocked out the guy's name, of course. This guy came from Argentina about 6 months ago, or a year ago, probably about a year ago now. I've been trying to hire him for all that time. I can't hire him because he's too busy. But look how amazing his CV is. That's why he's so busy. I've never even read the words. I can just tell from the diagrams exactly what he's capable of doing. I know that he's creative. I know that he's got a great mind. He's clearly being very honest about what he can and can't do. It's graphically represented. I don't even have to read the words to know that I want to hire this guy immediately. But I can't because he's too busy. So please don't all go and write CVs like this. I just want to show you an example of what you can do. Because if I see a copy of the CV, it's going in the bin as well. But you can do great things with CVs. This is particularly spectacular, but it doesn't mean that you can't do something similar that just stands out a bit. It's nice to see a bit of colour, It's pretty. It's very soundy. It's got meters and knobs and things. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So this is the kind of thing that really, really makes you stand out. And, I love it. And I would give this guy a job any day. Getting a chance, this is a little silly graph, I suppose, of how you can get a response to your CV. If you address a letter to Dear Sir, Madam, I will not even read the fourth word. I am not Sir, Madam, I am Darren. I am a human. Do not address me as Sir, Madam. I will not read any further. Make a bit of effort. Address it to an actual person with an actual name. If you address it to my name, spelt correctly, I might actually read the second paragraph. Right? Dear Darren, your website rocks. Obviously something a bit better than that. I will then immediately be, oh, that's cool. Slightly flattered. All right, I'll read the rest of that. And I'll probably I might get as far as your covering letter then. But if you, in your covering letter, flatter me some way or make me feel good, and then tell me what you can do, the chances are that I will actually read your CV and I might give you a phone call. Right? Just, when you're looking for work, don't send out on day one, you finish your uni, and then you spend day one sending out 20,000 CVs to everybody in the entire audio world, and then you sit back and wait for people to respond. That's a really, really, really bad way of looking for work. What I suggest you do is you take 5 people a day. Or the first day you make a list of everybody you want to work for, you think you might want to work for. And then every day you take 5 of those, and you research them, you look at the companies, you see what they actually do, you see whether your skills would suit them, so that you can sell yourself to them. And every day you only do 5, because it takes a long time. Looking for who's here? Is anybody here from London? Have you ever had to go flat hunting in London? Yeah. You know what absolute and utter hell that is, right? It's the worst experience of your life is trying to find a flat in London. Trying to find a job is similar to finding a flat in London. It's a period of hell in your life, but you've got to go through it. So just do it. And yes, I would suggest that you send 5 or 6 a day and spend a long time on those letters. Spend time actually writing to a real human being who you've done some research on and you know who it is that you're addressing. Right, the kind of work out there, obviously there's lots of everywhere in the world today there's microphones and there's loudspeakers, things need to be made louder. But as entry-level people, this is a bit of a list of the kind of things that you can do. Working in a warehouse of a PA company, this is a very good route to learn very specific things about very specific pieces of kit. All PA companies have their preferred kit that they work with, and you can become very, very familiar. It's usually very badly paid, but that's a great way to get in with a big PA company that does a lot of touring. And the only way into those companies when you're starting out is through the warehouse. It's usually badly paid, it's usually long hours, it's usually, cold in winter and hot in summer. But you know what? It's a great learning curve. It's a really good thing to do. Even if you only do it for 6 months or a year, it's a really good thing to do. Working as a house engineer in a venue, obviously that's what we all want to do. Or not all. That's a great job. That's fantastic. It's quite difficult to get that though. At first, because there's usually a hierarchy. There's lists of people trying to get into those positions. But if you can find a little pub or a little venue for you that you can be one of the house engineers at, it's great because you get to learn then everything about that particular system. So you learn how to fix it. You know how to what its foibles are and what its quirks are, and you get to know one system really, really, really well, and you get to do lots of different things with that system. So you'll have different bands every night, you'll have different events every time. So you'll have the same system, but you'll have a lot of variety in what you actually present with that system. Theatre, I don't know much about theatre, so I can't actually help you too much on the career path there. But theatre is a very big employer of technicians of all kinds. But yes, we fit in there as well. Touring is the other thing that everybody wants to do. When you're starting out, chances are you won't be on a fabulous tour bus and staying in luxury hotels. The chances are when you start out, you'll be starting in what we call the toilet tour, because everything's a bit shit. So toilet touring is all the the dirty, filthy, little sweaty venues, which, to be honest, are my favourite. I do love a dirty, sweaty little gig. Where this becomes interesting is, of course, now you've got the same content, you've got the same band, now, but you change systems every day. And it's only when you get to the big touring levels that you can actually take a system with you. But starting out, small tours, you're going to be using whatever's in-house. So that challenges your skills from a completely different perspective. Because now you know what the content is, but you've got to adapt it to very specific, or to a new place every day. Part of touring is this. I disagree with this completely, but it's become, since the recession and everybody's had an excuse not to pay anybody, people are expecting people to be able to drive and tour manage as well as do sound. Now for me, doing sound and tour managing or doing sound and driving is kind of okay, but if you're doing all three, I think it's incredibly dangerous, because if you're not concentrating on the driving properly because you're trying to answer the phone as a tour manager, you're going to kill people. And then if you're driving very carefully and you're using all your concentration driving, you're going to be really tired by the time you get to the venue. So I think it's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing that's happening in the industry, is that people are expected to do 3 jobs in one and only get paid for one as well. Unfortunately, it's a reality. And people who are prepared to do all 3 are the people taking the jobs at the moment. So it's, much as I dislike it, it's something you need to consider. Get a driving license. It's a basic life skill, guys. Cruise ships are a huge employer. I hate them. I've been on a few. I can't stand being locked on a ship. But there's a reasonable amount of money to be made because, of course, you have no costs back home. Your board and lodging is all paid for, and everything on. I think we used to have the crew bar. I think beers used to be 60p or something, 60 euro cents. So you can have a great time on cruise ships. It suits certain personalities. It doesn't suit everyone. It certainly doesn't suit me. But there's a lot of cruise ships in the world. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. They're a real big industry. If you're ever in a port and you like on one of the main cruise routes, you will see how big the industry is. Holiday resorts are another, and this is a great entry-level job because they're usually very simple. Thompson's, First Choice, all those hotels on god-awful package holidays, they also all have entertainment because people go there because they just want England by the sea rather than actually going exploring the country they're in. But yes, there's a lot of entertainment in holiday resorts because that's what people want. Corporate world is brilliant because, it's not necessarily the most fun, often called death by PowerPoint, but the corporate world pays money, actual, real, genuine money. Pub jobs pay 50, 60 quid a night. Corporate pays real money. So a great way to try and organise your life is to try and get in with a bit of the corporate side of things so that you can, on 2 days a week, earn £200 a day, and then you can go and do the pub for 50 quid. It doesn't matter because that's not your rent money. So don't sort of turn your nose up at corporate too soon. Corporate's a good payer, and it also tests your skills, again, in a completely different way. So none of this, corporate is often more taxing than music because you've got, Jose the other day was 36 radio mics, in one go, and trying to work out the frequencies for it. It's a whole different ball game. So don't turn your nose up at corporate. It's actually quite a good test of your skills. Freelancing for a PA company, so that's where you would freelance as a front of house engineer or monitor engineer or system techs. Also, in bigger PA companies, there's lots of permanent jobs revolving around working, not necessarily in the warehouse, but fixing the microphones or being the electronics guy or the servicing guy. So PA companies do employ quite a lot of people, but you can also freelance at PA companies, which is what most of us do most of the time. If you can't actually get into sound jobs, at least stick with the crewing because at least you're moving with the same people. You're meeting people. At least if you're crewing, the guys loading and unloading the trucks, at least you're still in the same industry. Right? You're at least still hearing and being around people who can help you and notice you. Almost all work in the live sound industry is freelance. There are a few jobs. Theatre does have some full-time employees. PA companies will have some full-time employees. But 99% of what we do is as a freelancer. Right? Freelancer means that you're your own business and you have to run yourself like a business. But so you don't get holiday pay. You're not getting sick pay. You're only going to get paid the days you turn up. So be aware that, as a freelancer, you really have to be responsible and if you're not there, you're not getting paid. And almost all work is also word of mouth. Having someone recommend you is the biggest thing that can happen in your career. You must have people saying good things about you, and you must have people saying, I know a guy. He was great last time. Come, let's give him a ring. We'll take him along. So yes, word of mouth is really the only way to get work. Your CV is there, so that once you've met someone and they like you, then you send them your CV. And then they'll go to their boss and go, look, I met this guy the other night. He was pretty cool. Look, here's his CV. He's not bad. Just sending out CVs very seldom works. Your CV is there to back up a personal connection. Have a passion for everything. There's no point in doing anything in life if you're not completely passionate about it. If you're half-assed about it, don't bother. Go and do something else that you do care about. And especially what the careers you guys are going to embark on very soon, your work and your life are not separate. It's exactly the same thing. You live, breathe, eat, smell, sleep, dream audio. And if you don't do that, it's not the job for you. Let people see your passion. Wear your heart on your sleeve. We want to see. It's when you notice someone that's got a real passion for something, that's the person that you go, okay, come, you're coming with me, let's go. So let people see your passion. And if you have a dream, this is part of what I was talking about earlier with imagination, identify exactly what it is that you want. I want to be mixing front of house at Glastonbury within the next 5 years. That's an actual dream that you can pursue. Even, dream you can pursue is even, I want to be, at least earning enough money to live on within the next 5 years. But identify specific things that you want to do, because if you don't have a specific goal in mind, you will never get, you don't reach wiffly-waffly goals, you only reach specific goals. So be very clear about what it is that you want. Read something every day that's going to make you feel better about the world and better about yourself. It doesn't have to necessarily be about audio, although obviously that's an inspiring topic for you guys. Read something every single day. I make a point, because being a freelancer and working for myself, I don't have to be anywhere by 9 o'clock in the morning. I can start work for myself at 11 o'clock in the morning if I want to, and I do, because I don't really like early mornings. But I make a point every day. My little routine is I run myself a nice big hot bath, and I have a book to read, and it's usually, I don't know, I read Richard Branson a lot, actually. Anything that inspires you. It might be a little self-help book, it might be a book on business, it might be a book on audio, but something that's, and you don't have to believe every word that comes off those pages, but it inspires you to have a better day and go, okay, well, yes, that's a good idea. And it brings these aspects into your life that can really, really help you have a good day and help you have that, because if you're having a good day, the email that you write to send out your CV is going to be a much better email. So start your day off with something really positive. Do positive things as well. Exercise is a good one. I know it's rock and roll, but yeah, run around the block. It's actually really good for you. And if something goes wrong, don't blame someone else, even if it is their fault. If you spend your life blaming people for why you have not succeeded, you're never going to succeed ever. Even if someone else is to blame, move on. Right? Don't get caught up in blame and anger and, oh, it's not my fault. Doesn't matter if it's not your fault. Get up, get on, dust yourself off and do it again. Try harder. And the best thing we've got in the world at the moment is TED Talks. TED Talks are the most inspiring, the most mind-blowing things that we can have, that the internet has made so far, right? TED Talks is a brilliant app for your phone. It's fantastic if you're catching buses. You can actually, the TED Talk app will actually let you set, I've got 20 minutes and I want to hear something inspiring. And it'll select a 20 minutes TED Talk on an inspiring topic. It's absolutely brilliant. I highly recommend the TED app. And watch TED Talks. They're so good. And they're really, I think TED is where, we can really see the pinnacle of human achievement, really, is the kind of things that come up in TED. Very, very inspiring. Right, on your chairs, you may have seen the little creature. Right, the critter, I'm going to ask you to, number 1, give it a name, and number 2, take it home and put it on your desk. Right, this little guy is your conscience from now on. Every time you look at it, and you've got to look, it's got eyes, you can't throw him away either. Can't throw away things with eyes. Look him in the eye every day and go, okay, have I done my best today to achieve my dreams? Have I done something today that is actually going to be a positive and genuine step towards realizing my ambitions? And I want you to take this home, and I want you to look at it every day. This is your conscience. That's why you need to give it a name as well. Right, once you've got the work, you need to keep the work. Keep a diary. Double booking yourself is very uncool. Keep a diary. Turn up on time, which is 15 minutes early. Always be early. It impresses everybody. Be reliable. Oh, God, and respond. If somebody has sent you an email with the instructions for what you need to be doing tomorrow, for God's sake, tell them you've received it. All it does, you just have to say, received, thanks. And so that relieves them of the worry of, did he get it, did he get it, did he get it, I don't know. Let people know that you've got the information. Invoice regularly. I am not a bank. I don't want to keep your money. It doesn't help me in my bank account. There's no interest on bank accounts anymore. I don't want your money in my bank. If I owe you money, I want to pay it to you so I know how much money in the bank is mine. Right? So invoice quickly, regularly, so that I know what's mine and what's not. Yeah, grow a thick skin. This industry is full of people who are going to shout at you a lot. Okay, there's going to be tour managers shouting at you. There's going to be venue managers shouting at you. There's going to be bands shouting at you. Everybody's going to be shouting at you. If you turn into a little blob of jelly when you get shouted at, you're in the wrong career. What you've got to do is realize there's two things you've got to do. You've got to, first of all, know the difference between what is your fault and what is not your fault. So if there was a problem at an event that was completely and utterly out of your control, there was nothing you could have done about it, don't feel bad, because you won't get up in the morning. If you feel bad about everything that ever goes wrong in a gig, you will be a gibbering wreck and you'll never move out of your house again. Right? Grow a thick skin. Know that if it's your fault, do something about it, and also apologize and clear the air with people. If it's not your fault, don't feel so bad about it that you can't get out of bed the next morning. Right? Grow a thick skin. You're going to need it. People are going to shout at you. And a little bit shit isn't good enough. The whole world these days, I find, is a little bit shit. Oh, it's good enough. Oh, that will do. No, it doesn't do. And especially the way the industry's moving at the moment with these absolutely, really, really, really insanely expensive sound systems and insanely intricate sound systems, setting it up a little bit shitly is going to ruin the gig. It's not good enough. You've got to be better. Excel. Be better than you were yesterday. Be better than the person next to you. And if the person next to you is a little bit shit, brilliant, that means you can be better. Right, climbing the ladder. There is no actual ladder. It's not like being a lawyer where you start as an intern and then you do the first few years, then you do the second few years. No, we've only got a web. It's here, a job here, then a job there, then a job there, and one day you might be touring with a big fancy band that's actually got a record deal, and the next day you're going to be doing a pub job with 16 bands on and off on a Saturday afternoon in Camden. It's a web of intrigue. There's no actual career path. It's all intertwined. But there is a bottom of it, and you guys are at the bottom of it. Right? You've got to get yourself up into that web and around that web. But always remember, when you're starting out, when you're starting at this level, you are at the bottom, and the people who have been there before you deserve your respect. And there's an old saying that you are only ever as good as your last gig. If your last gig was a little bit shit, you will be tainted with a little bit shit brush, and you will never work again. Or you might work again, but it'll be more difficult to get work again. Right? Your last gig is the only reference point that anybody has to you. And if you were bad on it, or you performed badly, or whatever, you won't be called again. Say yes to every opportunity. Say no to drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and alcohol until the gig's finished. Once the gig is finished, get as drunk as you like. Right? Do whatever you like. But while you are working, and especially when you're starting out. If you are there with a beer in your hand, and something goes wrong, even if it's not your fault, and even if you haven't had the sip of that beer yet, the fact that you've got a beer in your hand and something's gone wrong, in somebody who's watching you, in their mind, it means you are pissed, that's why things gone wrong. So don't do it. When you've done this a few years and you know exactly what you're doing and you've had all the problems to solve and you've solved them all and you know the solutions and it's second nature, fine, it's rock and roll, of course. But not when you're starting out, because people will blame you. And you won't work in that place again if that happens. Never say no without replacing yourself. If you get offered a job and you can't do it, find somebody to replace you. Because you will be... that person, if you send your friend to do your job, number one, your friend's going to give the work back to you next time. And number two, you can trust that person and you've sorted your client out. So don't just say, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Say, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, but I will find someone. And then you go and find someone. I have always considered I've always got my sort of inner and outer circles. My inner circle, and that is usually the people that I was at college with, are the people that you call on first. Go, okay, if I can't do the job, I go to John number 1, Peter number 2, Jane number 3. That's your inner circle. And then your outer circle is people that you've met along the way. That none of your inner circle can take a job from you. You've got a bunch of... people that you can then contact, who you trust. You must trust the person that you hand your job on to. Right, you must have public liability insurance, PPE, correct vehicle insurance. If you're using your car for work, then you may need different insurance. And always be absolutely ready to work at any time. If your phone rings and you've been offered work, you need to get there fast. So, always kind of have things to hand. Don't leave your steelies at your mum's house, leave your steelies at your own house. The third step is, of course, to be a better engineer and be a better human and be a better person. And I've got the most marvel of Mr. Bob Heil, who is going to tell you a little bit about that.
And my advice to a lot of these beginning students is to make sure that you've studied the basics of audio. Go back into the 30s and read what Bell Labs did. Harry Olson, Dr. Fletcher, Dr. Munson, all of the early guys that learned about these things, what they do and what they don't do. And so many times I find engineers that don't even understand the Fletcher-Munson curve of our ear. They don't realize how and why we hear this or that. So their equalizations are off. Their sounds really aren't as good as they could be because they miss the basics. But who is telling you to go back and read stuff in the 1920s and 30s? I am, because that's how I learned it. And when I did, all of a sudden, this big 30,000 watts becomes 10,000. It was louder. It sounded better because we have applied that early science, really the human science of our hearing. And so I advise every student to do that. Go back and make those studies. And the most important thing you can learn is about phasing. It is absolutely the most incredible thing you can do is to learn about phasing. It affects everything we do, and we don't hear anything about it. You certainly do from me, because it is what drives our products and what drives this industry. So pay attention to that, read those studies, and apply them. And for whatever you do, make sure you continue to have fun.
Bob is one of the most fabulous people. I just adore him. And he makes fantastic microphones and really great advice. Phase is something that really isn't discussed enough. And so we've made a point on the Soul Sound website at the moment. There's a lot of videos up that deal with phase. So please do watch them. Right, so improving your audio skills. It's a craft, what you do. A craft is something that you develop over life. You know, people who do wood carving or make things, you know, they don't know how to make them on the first day. They learn how to deal with their wood or whatever medium they're using, their clay, and they learn how to make things out of it. What we do in audio is we also make things. You've got your tools and you create something from it. It's a craft. It's not a science. So learn your craft, hone your craft, and think of it as a craft rather than as just a job. It's a real something that you can improve on day in, day out. You can get better and better and better at it. Your ears are your most important tool. Guys, I know you're the screen generation, right? Your eyes, you do not hear with your eyes. You do not hear with your eyes. Everything is now screen-based. All the digital consoles, screen-based, screen-based, screen-based. I know people, and I've fallen into that trap as well, where you start EQing with your eyes because you think, oh, that looks like a good EQ curve, instead of listening to what your EQ curve sounds like. My advice is, when you're working on digital desks with lots of screens, cover up the screens every now and again so that you're forced to use your ears. Be very, very careful of mixing with your eyes. Mixing with your ears is the important thing. Right, practice your craft. Same points I've been making over and over again. Say yes to every opportunity. You need to practice. If you don't practice it, you don't do it well. So please do practice. Keep up to date. This is great that you hear something like PLASA. These events are very good. Keep up to date. See what the new technologies are. Meet people. This is a great networking opportunity. This particular show is much nicer than the London show for networking. Talk to people. People have got time up here to actually talk to you. So talk to them. Make friends. Get to know people. Read blogs. The internet's a fantastic place. There's lots and lots and lots of information online. And of course, you can join Soul Sound. Become a member, and we will assist you in keeping up to date and all kinds of other things. The more skills you have, the more employable you are. Just doing sound and nothing else is not going to make you the most employable person. If you can drive, you become more employable. Londoners, I know you don't need a car in London, but you need to know how to drive a car. It's a basic life skill. I can't believe how many people in this country don't drive. It's insane. Driving's like reading and writing. You've got to be able to do it, and it makes you more employable if you can. If you work for somebody who they can give you the van to drive and you can do the sound at the other end, they're going to take you over the person who can't drive. Because if you can't drive, they have to send 2 people. So, yeah, get your driver's licenses, guys. Any other licenses that you can get, anything that's useful. If you can get up in a cherry picker, you're more likely to get the job on an outdoor stage where you need to be up in a cherry picker. Do these things, learn these skills. Anything that can be useful, right? It just makes you more employable. Now, your internet presence, ladies and gentlemen, is a very important thing. Everybody has an internet presence these days. You can't possibly avoid it, so make sure that you're giving good Google. Right? Do not let bad things about yourself get onto the internet. They're unerasable. So Google yourself regularly to see what's coming up, and just make sure that everything is that's right. And for God's sake, privatize your photos. First thing anybody does is check you out on Facebook or whatever. So, all those, drunk parties, not that we don't have drunk parties in rock and roll, but you know what I mean? If I'm about to employ you, I don't want to see, photos of you with yards of ale down your throat. Get your own domain name and put at least a basic 1-page website up. Just name, contact, who you are, what you've done, and a couple of photos. It's really important to have just something that people can find about you on the internet. And yes, LinkedIn and all that, that's great, but a little website of your own is better. And for Pete's sake, will you please stop using Hotmail? Hotmail is not a professional address. Hotmail is a children's address. Hotmail is also the cause of almost every bit of spam that comes into my inbox. Everybody I know who uses Hotmail spams me at some stage. Hotmail is not secure, and if I see Hotmail on a business card, I actually often that actually puts me off people, because Hotmail is a terrible thing. And speaking of business cards, you need business cards. Now, you should not have turned up at the show without a business card. Even if it just says student on it, you should have turned up at the show with business cards, because that's how people remember you. Have nice business cards. Moo, best business cards in the world. These little guys, everybody comments on them. They cost £15 for 100, including delivery. They're a beautiful card. People remember them. If somebody takes your phone number and they just quickly enter your phone number in their phone, and it's John from PLASA in the phone, next day they can't even remember that you're John. So your phone number's, for all intents, is lost. Business cards, people remember. It's a visual reference. They can associate what you look like and who you are with that picture on the card. So always have business cards. Business cards are very, very good things to do. When you get round to doing some work, for God's sake, just keep it clean with the tax man. You will get the tax man phone call at some stage if you fail to pay your tax. I have had that. I'm speaking from experience. I have had that phone call from the tax man. You don't want it. So my advice to everybody is keep it clean. Pay your tax. So if you don't, they will get you. I got. It wasn't fun, I promise you. Save money every month towards your tax. I found that generally if I save 10% of everything I earned, even though tax is 20%, because you're a business, you can claim business expenses. So I found that your business expenses reduces your profit, and you only get taxed on profit. So I found that if I saved 10% of every single job, that more or less equated to how much money I needed in the bank in January to pay my tax with. In the UK, there is absolutely no work in January. Nothing in the live industry. It's dead. January is when people go away. Right? Make January your holiday month. January in the UK is awful anyway. Just get out, go somewhere else. But tax is due on the 31st of January. So you're going to have December, which is quite busy, but it's only 3 weeks long, because Christmas, New Year, dead. And then you've got the whole of January to get through, and then you've got to pay tax. Right? So save your money, make sure you're keeping up, you've got enough money to pay your tax. Keeping up to date with accounts is really important, and good housekeeping means getting paid. So if you actually send an invoice, you will get paid. If you don't send that invoice, you won't get paid. So you need to do your homework. Running yourself is like running yourself as a business, right? You need to run yourself well. Right, so in the end, if you want to be a sound engineer, if this is your chosen path, I applaud you. It's a wonderful path to take. It's absolutely the best thing you could do with your life. But you've got to persevere. It is difficult. It is difficult to get started. But if you persevere and you persevere and you persevere, you will get a career. Thank you very much.